Welcome to the show, gentlemen. I am going to come to you, Steve. Don't you worry about that. Chatty Patty. Is that the top four dream over, bro? Is that the top four dream over?
It was over when we only got 2 points out of a possible 9 against teams that we should have beat: Bournemouth, Everton, Southampton. When we only picked up 2 points out of 9 out of that, I knew it was over. We also played a game less than Newcastle, so going into today's game, we were just hopeful. The thing is, we had a good record, as I said on the Top 6 show on Thursday or Friday, whenever it was. We had a good record going to St James's Park, hadn't lost there in 8, won the last 4 out of 5. But as I said on Friday, this is a different Newcastle. And we saw, I've never seen my team down 5-0 in 20 minutes, regardless of the opposition. That's probably the worst spanking I've seen, other than the 7-2 demolition at home to Bayern Munich in the Champions League. And obviously that's the Champions League, which is a different kettle of fish. No disrespect to Newcastle, but they're not at that level yet. Obviously they are now. They're going to probably secure 4th, probably even 3rd, who knows. But I've never seen it, Terry. I've never seen a collapse like that, a demolition job like that. No desire, no passion, no energy. The guys didn't run. Hugo Lloris, and I said it back then, and people said I was negative when he got dashed straight back into the starting lineup when Fraser Forster actually looked good when he was playing for those couple of weeks when Hugo was out. The guy had 5 shots on target or 6 shots, and literally conceded 5 goals. Absolutely abysmal goalkeeping. The first save, even, he should have pushed that far out or pushed it behind for a corner. He didn't. It was an easy tap in. And then some of the shots were just shambolic. I'm seeing reports online that he actually refused to come out for the second half. Yeah, it wasn't even, at halftime, I'm like, well done, Stellini. You've actually showed some balls and dropped him, like you basically replaced him for the second half. That actually isn't the case. He refused to come out. So he would have been in goal for the second half, which just goes to show, man, this team, this board, we've been screaming Levy out for years. You got rid of Conte. You left his right-hand man in, who's absolutely, just pathetic. He's like Conte, diluted, you know what I mean? And it's so shit. We go to the back 4, which, okay, I'll give him credit because we're all screaming for a back 4. But when you go to a back 4 and you use 2 wing backs that aren't great defenders, you're always going to be in trouble. You experiment away against a good team, and obviously we got our ass handed to us. It was embarrassing, man. Better fans. I see fans walking out at the stadium at 19, 20 minutes in, and I don't blame them, man. They spent 3 or 4 hours traveling up there, literally sacrificed their whole Sunday for that. They ask, is Kane part of the problem? Yes, he is. He's part of the 11. No one's exempt. No one's exempt. Son, Kane, whoever. If you're out there on the field and you're conceding 11 goals, not putting in you're part of the problem. Yeah, his goal was fantastic. Got away from Shah and obviously slotted it into the bottom corner. Brilliant goal. But he is part of the problem because he's always playing in these games when we lose, when we've bottled big semi-finals and finals. He's been there. He's been the talisman. He's been the main man. As much as people say he's a captain by his, the example he leads on the pitch, he's not a captain. He's not captain material. Neither is Hugo Lloris. Neither is that Ford Højbjerg in defence. Keeps getting spun. Look at Joe Linton, who, we laughed at when he was brought into the Premier League. Came in as a striker, didn't work, but Eddie Howe saw something in him and put him in the middle of the pitch. If you look at the difference between him and Højbjerg, it's chalk and cheese in regards to the desire, the commitment, the willingness to win the ball, the class to pass forward, to cut the lines, to make runs into the box, to get onto the end of balls, to actually wow the crowd up. It's credit to Newcastle, man. And like you said, Terry, a few people, Spurs fans, being disingenuous, talking about the Saudi this and that. Let's talk about football. Let's talk about how they spent wisely, spent cutely, brought in a good manager who, again, they saw something that we all didn't. We all knew Eddie Howe was a good manager at Bournemouth. He did fantastic there. It was a gamble and it's played off massively. Now he's looking like one of the best managers in the league. He's getting the best out of players that a few had written off, like Almiron, Joe Linton, even Dan Burn. I thought he was a decent defender at Brighton, but I didn't see he was as good as this. So yeah, credit to them, man. We are a shambles. We are a mess. There's so many things that need to be, I could go on. If anyone that follows me and sees all the Spurs podcasts I'm on, you'll hear me delve into it in a lot more detail. But Yeah, man. I think I've said enough here. Credit to Newcastle, and yeah, we've got so much we need to sort out.
I hear you, bro. And Alan, I see you nodding your head through some of that, shaking your head when you first came in. I mean, I knew you guys, it was going to be tough to make it into the top four, but you expect more than that from your team, especially in the opening 20 minutes, surely.
Of course. I mean, any fan in his chat, their team goes down to 5-0 in 20 minutes. They're going to be absolutely raging like we are. It was just a complete mess from the start. And it's just, I don't understand why you're coming into a game against Newcastle, who are your direct rivals to top four, and going, okay, I'm going to change back to a back four. That's fine. But why are you doing that game when you've been players have been or fans have been crying out for that for so long in regards to changing things up? Because Porro as a right back is going to get cooked, and he did. You got the defenders. I mean, Romero for me is literally. I'm getting to the end of my like he's really annoying me. He shows no importance. He's like, okay, that's fine. I don't care. He's got all that thing like that. If that's your take on Spurs and that you don't want to be here, go away. I don't want you or want players to play for my club. The defense was all over the show because it changing from back five to back four. So at times, nobody knew where we were. The back line was horrendous. We were playing players on we shouldn't have done because there was no... It was like Stellini just went before the game, actually, rather than a back five, let's go to a back four. Because no one knew what they were doing. Absolutely nobody. And I've said it for weeks. Why are you putting Conte Light in as manager for the rest of the season when quite clearly the players didn't want to play for Conte? And the players are to blame as well. But you've got them didn't want to play under Conte, and now Stellini's in charge, and they're going to do the same thing for him because they did a thing like that. But these players are not good enough. How on earth is it that you're going to make a change because you didn't make a change until we were 4 down, and then your change is I'm going to bring on Davinson Sanchez, who you brought on for 20 minutes and then subbed off in the last game. He's the answer to the question. When Sarr has come in and done nothing wrong, when you've got people like Højbjerg who have been awful for weeks and still playing on that pitch. I don't understand the decision-making at this club in the last couple of months has been absolutely shambolic. Like I said, people coming in will go for one person or go thing like that. No, the board should have got rid of Stellini, and they've obviously loads of problems at Spurs. You've got the players who are just down in tools, don't want to be there. Identify them, get them out. People are not good enough, get them out. If you brought players in for a specific system, you play them to that system. That's where you get the best out of them. And then obviously, like Stellini, why is he there? I don't understand. And then also in regards to the players, there's certain players that have not been good enough and got worse and worse over time, and you haven't sorted out the situation. Spurs fans have known that Lloris has been getting worse and worse over seasons and getting worse and worse, and yet you haven't decided to go out until now or thinking about bringing in a new keeper to replace him. It's taken you, 3-4 seasons to realise that we may need a keeper going forward. Absolutely horrendous decision-making across at Spurs. It's an absolutely horrendous club at the moment. It's disgusting. I've had enough at the moment. I don't enjoy watching Spurs play, and I haven't for some time this season.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming. Totally get where you're coming from. And like Romero, what goal was it? Was it goal number 2, maybe 3? But Romero just kind of ducks out of the way of the ball. I get what Patty was saying about Højbjerg. This is what happens when clubs are run poorly. The players start to not care. And I spoke about this as a United fan about my club, and rivals typically just say you're making excuses for bad performances. But everybody on here is of a certain age, maybe barring young Stephen. No disrespect, Patty, Orchie, and Alan, but you're a bit more like my age or so. We've all worked in places where senior people didn't care. And even if you as a person are not lazy, you become lazy in that workplace. You become complacent. You cut corners. You're like, oh, I'm 10 minutes late for work, but I know I'm not going to get in trouble. So I'm not going to worry about it and panic because the standards at Tottenham are not high enough. They're not good enough. Højbjerg's a good player. Romero's a very good player. But the fact they're performing like they are, for me, is an indictment of how the club is run. It's a systemic issue as opposed to just bringing the right coach or signing quality to go next to him. Yes, you need better than what they're playing with. Yes, you need a quality manager. But how a club is run behind the scenes, behaviors, attitudes, and that genuine determination to win. I know Newcastle will spend a lot of money, but there's also a lot of players in this squad still who are part of the shambles under Mike Ashley. Why are they looking better? Because the club's being run, and they know they can't get away with previous behaviors. And I think that's something that massively needs to be addressed at Tottenham. And I don't think fans spend enough time focusing on that. It's always just players or manager, where actually the problem is often deeper than that and much more behind the scenes. We have some super chats here. First one says Conte would still be in a job if Arsenal and Chelsea were reversed. The real banter club is Tottenham. Top 6 is a myth. Top clubs win trophies. Archie, a lot of people have been messaging me, and I get why. I run and own the Football Terrace, which focuses on the top 6. Do you feel like a top 6 team at the moment?
Yeah, it's a shambles, Terry. I mean, I've genuinely had enough of. I mean, I completely agree with what Alan's saying. At the end of the day, once you decide to get rid of Conte, why the hell are you keeping the person who's his assistant and the rest of his staff? You know, if you decide to make a change, then you got to make a proper change. That's it. It's done. I mean, you're saying that you want to salvage the rest of the season. If you want to salvage the rest of the season, you need to make a big change. You need to make a statement. You need to, and also you know for a fact that obviously if you get a decent, good manager, if you're going to get rid of someone like Conte, then you should have had whoever's going to be his replacement ready, because you did it in a international break where you got 2 weeks to sort out that business, and they didn't do it. And so, of course, you've got Stellini there. I don't think most of the players are clearly not really playing for him. I think they were playing for him when Conte was obviously ill and away, because Conte essentially was still in charge. But once you decide to let Conte go, then you should have done that with the replacement manager ready, and he's coming in with that new manager bounce, hopefully getting the results to push for top 4. Because at the end of the day, all right, top 4 isn't I agree, top 4 isn't a trophy, but a team like Tottenham, we do not like. If Chelsea finish 11th, 12th, whatever, they're not going to have problems attracting. If they need to buy a couple of more new players when they get their new manager in, they're not going to have problems doing that. They're not going to have problems attracting it because it's Chelsea. Same for Liverpool, same for even Arsenal. Tottenham are not one of these clubs. We need to have as much as we can in our favour to be able to attract the kind of quality players that we need in the summer, which we're definitely going to need. We need a whole new defense. I mean, Perisic, I've been so massively let down by him. I was expecting a lot more from him, and he's another one that hasn't really done anything. I mean, Bissouma, obviously, he wasn't getting a game under Conte. You know, they brought in all these players in the summer that we were expecting a lot more of. And I think someone like Pochettino, someone like even, you know, one of the other guys, they'll probably get a lot more out of, like, if Pochettino was the manager, he'd come in. Obviously, they're injured at the moment. I mean, we are a bit decimated as well. We've got no real quality left to replace some of these players with. But at the end of the day, you know, we brought in players, the type of players like Bissouma, Richarlison. These are the kind of players that would have probably done better under someone like Pochettino, but not Conte. So if you've got a manager, if you decide to go ahead with a manager like Conte, then you need to give that guy control to bring in his type of players. We didn't do that. Levy didn't do that. He went out. Obviously, they brought in all these players that Conte didn't want. I guess the player that Conte did want, Perisic, he hasn't really had much of a good season. It's just shambles. Do you know what I saw today as well, Terry? It's like, you probably know this. It's like the start of, you know, at the beginning of Rocky 3, when, you know, Rocky's given up, and, you know, he goes in for that first fight against Mr. T, and he's like completely given up. He doesn't believe in himself, and he just basically, he's not even fighting. He's just taking. Today was like the beginning of Rocky 3 for me. It was absolute joke. Yeah. In the first 20 minutes, you're 5-0 down.
I'm afraid, Mick.
And it just shows they've got no pride. I agree with that. Romero is really starting to. It's like after the World Cup, he got his World Cup winners medal, and that was it. The season was done for him. He's like, yeah, don't care for the rest of the season, whatever. And you know, we need to change this mentality. And it's like what you're saying, like the simple fact that we still, after we got rid of Conte, we are continuing with Stellini, just shows that the management, the people at the very top don't really care, you know, where we are. Real winners would want to go in and get their, you know, immediately they want to get the replacement manager because they want to salvage as much of the season as possible. It was already crap before Conte left. So, you know, you got rid of a manager like Conte. Why are you still keeping Stellini? I mean, I'm just so annoyed. I'm so angry.
Yeah, I mean, and
I can't find the words, mate.
I totally get it, and your Rocky 3 reference is banging. I'm a big Rocky fan myself.